Tonight you will fall asleep to the creaking of wet wood and the groaning breath of old sails. Not in a bed, not in a room, but in the belly of something that floats only by the mercy of the sea. The year is somewhere in the 1600s. No one counts it precisely anymore. Dates are luxuries for land dwellers. Time here is marked only by hunger, storms, and the beat of the drum before punishment. You are aboard a pirate ship, not the romantic kind from storybooks, no golden trim or charming rogues here, just rough hands, salted wounds, and men who trust no one but their knives. The wind is constant, the damp is everywhere, the ocean never sleeps, and neither, it seems, do you. But tonight you will try. In this dream, you are not a captain, not even an officer. You are lower than low, a swab, maybe, or a powder monkey. You don't speak unless spoken to. You eat what rats won't finish. You work until your body forgets it hurts. And if the ship takes on water tonight, you will be the last to know. Let the storm pass over you. Let the past creak open like the hull. Let the sound of waves lull you into someone else's suffering. Close your eyes now. The ship is already moving. You sleep with your knees drawn up to your chest, because there is no room to stretch them. Not in the dark, narrow shelf they call a hammock. Not in the stale belly of this ship, where the beams are so low they brush the tops of heads like ghost fingers. The air is thick with the scent of salt, rot, and men who haven't bathed since the last time it rained hard enough to stand naked in it. You breathe in shallow mouthfuls, each one flavored with mildew and the sour tang of unwashed bodies. Someone coughs beside you, a wet, rattling sound that never really stops. You hope it's not contagious, but you've already shared the same spoon, the same air. If he's dying, he'll die next to you, and you'll have to step over him come morning. The wood groans around you, expanding and contracting with each wave. You've grown used to the creak of timbers and the slap of seawater against the hull, not because they comfort you, but because they never stop. They are the lullabies of this life, sharp, repetitive, unforgiving. Rats scurry in the darkness above you. You hear them more clearly now than you hear your own thoughts. They know where the crumbs fall, where the meat is hidden, where the weakest among you sleep. They do not fear men anymore. Some say they nibble on the fingers of those too fevered to swat them away. Your blanket is damp. It is always damp. No fire below deck to dry it. No sun to bake the mold from the corners. You tuck it tighter around you anyway. It smells of brine and old sweat, and the blood from that time you scratched yourself raw just to feel something that wasn't rocking. You used to dream vivid things, of trees, of women, of dry clothes, but now your dreams are murky, half-formed, cut short by someone shouting or vomiting nearby. You forget what day it is. You forget your name, sometimes, but you never forget the sea. It teaches you in every moment. It slaps your sleep with its wet hands. Above, the deck shudders with footsteps. Someone is on watch, someone else is drunk, another is being dragged by the collar to the mast for stealing rum. You listen to the commotion, not because you care, but because every noise means the ship is still afloat. Silence is the real danger. Silence means something's broken, or someone has gone overboard. Your hammock sways, not gently. There's nothing gentle about this place. The sway is violent, a warning that the sea is hungry tonight. You grip the sides and close your eyes tighter. Sleep is a kind of rebellion. You know you're not supposed to have it. You're supposed to stay alert, keep one eye open, be ready to haul lines at a moment's scream. But you don't care. You sleep where rats scurry and men mutter curses in their dreams. You sleep above barrels of powder and beneath crates of oranges that rotted months ago. Sometimes the cargo shifts. Sometimes the whole ship tilts and throws you against the bulkhead like a toy. Your body is a map of bruises. The hard wood leaves impressions in your skin, reminders of knots and nails. Your hip aches where it pressed too long against the edge. Your jaw clenches even in dreams, as if ready to bite back against some unseen slight. You once thought life on a pirate ship would be full of freedom, escape from laws, from lords, from taxes and landlocked misery. But freedom tastes like spoiled pork and smells like mildew and never-ending feet. It moans like a dying man in his hammock and flickers like a lantern running out of oil. No one here is free. You're just caged with more sky. And yet, sleep comes. Not quickly, not kindly, but it comes, in the rhythm of the waves, in the groan of the ropes, In the low murmurs of men, too tired to speak full sentences, you let yourself drift. There's no pillow, just your own arm beneath your head. It tingles from lack of blood, but you don't move it. Movement is for daylight, for swabbing, climbing, loading, fighting. Right now, your only duty is to vanish for a little while. You dream of silence, not the silence of death, but the impossible silence of still land, of no motion, of steady ground beneath your feet. It's a foolish dream. You've forgotten what stillness feels like. Even now, in your mind, the world sways. And somewhere beneath the lull and the creaking, you hear the ocean whispering stories it told to other sailors. Some of them never woke up. Others jumped. A few slipped and cracked their skulls on the steps. But you are still here. Still breathing the fetid air. Still listening for the rats skitter. Still curled like a question mark, wondering what day it is. You shift in your hammock. The ropes creak above you. A droplet of water falls from the beam and lands cold on your forehead. You do not wipe it away. You are used to the leaks now. Used to the darkness. Used to sleeping in a ship that could sink before dawn. The man beside you coughs again, louder this time. It shakes his whole body. He mutters something about God, or gold, or both. You close your eyes tighter, and wait for morning, or the storm, whichever comes first. Sleep, if it arrives, will not be restful, but it will be something. And that on this ship is enough. Rest now. There is nothing you can do in the dark. Let the sea hold you a little longer. You wake before the bell, not because you want to, but because your stomach has been arguing with your ribs since the middle of the night. It's not hunger, not exactly. Hunger would imply the presence of food. This is emptier than that. This is a hollowness that hums, a quiet gnawing ache that has long since stopped expecting to be answered. You sit up slowly in your hammock, joints popping, back aching like you've aged decades overnight. The air is damp and close, as always, but beneath the mildew and sweat, there is a new note today, something sour and metallic, like meat that died twice. It drifts in from the galley, carried on the breath of the cook's curses. Your meal waits for you in a splintered wooden bowl. No one serves it. You fetch it yourself, along with the same spoon everyone else uses. If you're lucky, the last man didn't have bleeding gums. Today's breakfast, if it can be called that, is a stew, or was a stew. It has collapsed into a thick gray sludge, flecked with strands of salt beef, overcooked peas, and something that might have been bread once. The smell is heavy with brine and decay. You hold your breath and force it down. You don't chew. Chewing would only remind you that the meat resists your teeth. Tendon, gristle, cartilage that never quite softened in the pot. You swallow it like medicine, and like medicine, it sits wrong in your gut. But it is better than nothing. On this ship, better than nothing is the closest thing to a compliment. There is weevil in the biscuit. Of course there is. They have made a fine home of the flour rations. They nest there now, fat and ivory-colored, their tiny legs twitching as you bite down. You eat them too. No one wastes food. The older sailors say they're extra protein. The newer ones gag and spit them out. But only once. After that you learn, or starve. The hard tack lives up to its name. You have to soak it in grog to even dent it with your teeth. And grog is no comfort either. Rum watered down until it tastes like regret. You drink it anyway, warm and sour, hoping it dulls the taste of whatever you just swallowed. It doesn't. Nothing dulls anything anymore. Not the hunger, not the salt, not the slow rot blooming in your molars. Some days you get a chunk of cheese, waxy, orange, sweating in the heat, and covered in a thin layer of green fuzz. You scrape the mold off with your fingernail and eat the rest. You've done worse. You've eaten worse. Once in port, you saw a man suck the marrow out of a dog's broken leg. Compared to that, this cheese is a delicacy. If you're lucky, very lucky, there's dried fruit, not enough to fill you, just enough to remind you what sweetness used to taste like. You chew a piece of fig until it softens, closing your eyes like it's a prayer. It sticks in your teeth. You keep picking at it with your tongue long after the rest of the flavor has gone. The others eat in silence. Talking takes energy, and no one has much to spare. A few cough as they chew. One man vomits into a bucket and goes back for another bite. The cook watches from the galley doorway, eyes sunken, apron crusted with things you don't want named. He says nothing. His job is to feed you, not to please you, and the food, such as it is, has kept most of you alive, so far. You think of the rumors, that the pork barrels hide more than meat, that when the last raid failed they didn't bury the dead right away. That salt is a fine disguise when you're desperate. You tell yourself it's nonsense, but sometimes the texture is wrong. Sometimes the meat pulls too easily from the bone. Still you eat. Because hunger is worse. Because weakness is dangerous. Because no one waits for the frail. Because a man who can't lift a rope or load a cannon is just extra weight, and the sea is always happy to lighten the ship. You finish your portion and scrape the bowl clean with your fingers, licking the grease from under your nails. There is no shame in it. There is no room for shame at sea. Only efficiency. Only survival. Once, back on land, you remember laughing over roasted chicken, gnawing the bones for fun, dipping bread into dripping fat. Now you dream of those bones like relics. You would chew your own knuckle if it promised marrow. Water is rationed, carefully. It is warm and stale and tastes faintly of wood and iron, but it is life. You sip it as if it were gold. You swallow as if it might vanish. Your stomach groans again, unsatisfied but momentarily silenced. It wants more. It always does. But there is no more. There never is. Some men hoard scraps. Others gamble with them. A crust of bread for a sharpened nail. A strip of salted cod for an hour of someone else's deck duty. You've seen a man fight over a rotten lemon. Blood was drawn. No one was punished. And still the food keeps coming. Same as always. Sludge and biscuit and weevil. Meat that died badly. Cheese that bites back. Fruit that never lasts. You begin to crave strange things. Charcoal, soap, the wax from the captain's candles. You know it's sickness, scurvy whispering madness in your bones, but the desire doesn't leave. Some nights, you dream of feasts. You wake with drool on your chin and the bitter taste of mold in your mouth. The dreams never last. The hunger does. You have learned to treasure the first bite, when your mouth floods with salt and saliva before the taste turns. That is the moment you live for now. 1 second of sensation before the revulsion kicks in. And after that you feel full. Not really. Numb maybe. Quiet. Your body has received its offering. The pain will ease. For now. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve. The cloth is stiff with grease and old blood. You don't care. No one does. Above you gulls scream. A sign of land, maybe. Or just the promise of another raid. Either way, it means the cook is preparing something special. Fresh plunder, casks of wine, salted beef, not yet turned, fruit that hasn't fermented into mush, maybe bread that breaks instead of bends. It won't last, it never does, but for a brief moment the smell changes, the air sweetens, and you remember. You remember eating because you were hungry, not because you had to. You remember flavor, choice, fullness. But then the moment passes, the stew returns, the biscuit cracks your molar, the weevil wriggles between your teeth, and so it goes, and so you go. You finish your meal, you stack your bowl with the others, you wipe your mouth, you do not speak. The bell rings. Time for work. Time to haul the lines. Time to bleed a little more salt into the sea. You will eat again when the sun goes down, or when someone dies. Whichever comes first. But for now, the ache has quieted, and your body is still upright. That is enough. Close your eyes if you can. Let your breath settle. The hunger will return, but not yet. Not yet. Your body moves before your mind does. That's how mornings work on a pirate ship. Not that there's a real morning, just the less black part of night. The sun hasn't broken the sea yet, but already the rhythm begins. Boots thud above your head. Ropes groan against pulleys, and someone curses, as they always do, as they always must. You crawl from your hammock and your back shouts in protest. Your knees threaten to betray you. Your shoulders ache like they've been crushed under stone. But none of that matters. The deck does not care. You climb the ladder up to the light. Your hands know every splinter in the railing now. The way it cuts your palm when you're careless. The way it slides when soaked in spray. You've bled into this ship. The wood remembers you. When you reach the deck, it is already alive. Men move like ants, dragging ropes, shifting barrels, patching holes in sails that should have been replaced months ago. The sea is still, but the wind is waking, sharp, wet, cold as a knife under your clothes. You take a deep breath. It tastes of salt and smoke, and someone's morning piss. Your task today is rigging. Again, always rigging. The ropes never rest. The sails are always wrong, too loose, too tight, too torn. You climb, higher than you want to, higher than is safe. Your fingers grope for knots, for lines, for footholds. The mast sways under you, not because of wind, but because the ocean has a cruel sense of humor. Up here, everything is smaller, the deck below, the men on it, the ocean itself. But you know better, the ocean is never small, it just hides its mouth. Your hands blister, they tear, they bleed. Rope burns stripe your palms like angry tattoos. You don't stop, there's no point in stopping. Someone else would just do your job and spit in your hammock for being lazy. Or worse, the bosun would notice. And then you'd be strung up for a lesson. Not for failing, but for being seen failing. You haul the line, you pull the sail tight, you tie it off with a knot you've done 100 times, fingers numb, teeth chattering. Below someone shouts your name. Not kindly, you nod even if they can't see. You climb down. Next it's the cannons. You clean them. Again, they must always be ready, though half of them don't fire properly. You scrape the rust. You swab the barrels. You load and load again until your arms ache and your back screams. Someone else vomits beside you from the stench of old powder and rat droppings. You don't flinch. The captain once said, "Every man on this ship earns his space by sweat or by blood." You believed him then. Now you believe in neither, just in doing enough not to be noticed. That's survival, not excellence, not loyalty, just silence, sweat, and avoiding the eye of the lash. Around midday, or what passes for it, the sun finally burns through the mist. It makes the salt in your skin sting. You taste it on your lips and wonder how many buckets of sea you've swallowed since your first day. How much of you is ocean now? The deck is slick with brine. Someone slips. The others laugh. He curses in a tongue you don't know. You laugh too, but only after everyone else does. That's another survival trick. Never be first. Never be last. Then it's barrels. You move them, up, down, side to side. Some full of powder, others of wine, others of something that smells like fermented regret. Your spine curves under the weight. You grunt. You sweat. You whisper curses at the gods, though you've long stopped believing they listen. A rat scurries across your boot. You don't flinch. You're too tired for flinching. When the sky darkens, whether from clouds or from time, you can't tell, you go below again. The sails need checking. The ropes need tightening. The deck needs scrubbing. Always scrubbing. You wonder how something so filthy demands so much cleaning. The mop becomes your companion. The bucket your prayer. You scrape dried blood off the planks. You don't ask whose it is. You know better. And then if you're unlucky, you get called to the hold. That's where the worst jobs are. Rats, spoiled cargo, rotting supplies, the stink of death that clings to your skin long after you've left. You cover your mouth with a rag and descend anyway. It's pitch black. The lantern is low. You move crates. You check for leaks. You step in something soft and warm and hope it was only spilled wine. It never is. You work with men who don't speak. They don't have to. The silence down here is louder than shouting. You breathe through your mouth. You don't want to, but breathing through your nose is worse. By the time you surface again, your eyes burn, your stomach growls, your hands are sticky, but you're still standing. That's the only metric that matters. Back on deck, the sky is split with the orange bruise of sunset. You lean against a barrel, just for a moment. The wind tangles your hair. It feels almost like rest, but it isn't. The bell rings again. Time to shift sails. The wind has changed. It always does. You climb. Again. Your hands protest. Your knees wobble. But you climb anyway. You don't look down. You never look down. Somewhere on the horizon, a storm brews. Or maybe a ship. Or maybe just more ocean. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it will demand something from you. Your blood, your sweat, your sleep. And you will give it. You always do. There is no dignity in this labor. Only rhythm, only repetition, only survival. You do not build. You do not plant, you do not create, you endure. But sometimes, when the sun is gone, and the sails are full, and the sea hushes for just a moment, you feel something like peace. Not joy, never joy, but a kind of stillness, like being part of something larger, something brutal and eternal and alive. The ship creaks like a cathedral, the ropes sway like prayer flags, and for one breath, just one, you forget how much it hurts. Then someone shouts, a boot slams the deck, a wave crashes, and the moment is gone. You return to your duties, to the rope, to the salt, to the skin that peels and the bones that grind. And when your body finally gives out, you will crawl back into your hammock, covered in sweat and ache in someone else's spit, and you will sleep like a man grateful to have survived another day of being owned by the sea. Rest now. You have done enough today. The rope will still be waiting tomorrow. There is no courtroom on a pirate ship, no judge, no jury, no appeals, only eyes watching, only whispers collecting, only hands ready to strike when the time comes. You don't always know what the offense was. Sometimes it's a stolen biscuit. Sometimes it's a word said too loud, too clever, too close to the captain's ear. And sometimes it's nothing at all. Just the misfortune of being the one who couldn't prove he didn't do it. Today it's a boy. Barely 14 if that. He's thin as rope, trembling near the mainmast, eyes darting like a cornered rat. They say he pocketed tobacco from the quartermaster's stores. They say he's done it before, but they is just the loudest voice, and on this ship the loudest voice wins. The crew gathers, boots thudding across the deck. No one looks surprised. No one dares look sympathetic. That would be risky. Sympathy is guilt's reflection. It might make you a target next. The bosun holds the cat-o'-nine tails. It's a cruel instrument, leather cords knotted with bone and metal, designed not to punish, but to remind. The boy is stripped bare from the waist up. His back is nothing but bones and a thin layer of skin waiting to be broken. You watch, you always watch, everyone watches. That's part of the punishment, the spectacle, the warning. The first lash sings through the air like a bird with claws. It lands with a crack that silences the ocean for a moment. The boy jerks. Doesn't cry out yet. That comes later. Second, third, fourth. The blood starts with the fifth, bright and wet, mixing with the salt already clinging to his skin. By the eighth, he's screaming. By the 12th, he's silent again. Voice gone or soul already halfway out. The bosun keeps count aloud, like a prayer to something brutal. 20 lashes, for a pinch of stolen leaf, for the rumor of theft, for the reminder that order here doesn't come from fairness, it comes from pain. You've seen worse. One man tied to the mast and left through the night. Tar poured over his wounds to keep the flies from leaving. Another keel hauled, dragged beneath the hull on a rope, scraping his flesh raw on barnacles until the water turned red and he surfaced, or didn't. There are rules here, yes, but they shift like the tide. The captain's word is law, but the crew's favor is its own kind of justice. A popular man might be spared. A disliked one might be punished harder just for breathing wrong. Your hands twitch at your sides, not from sympathy, from fear, from memory. You've stood in that boy's place once, or maybe more than once. The details blur after a while. The taste of blood in your mouth, the sting that never fades, the knowing that your own skin is never safe. After it's done, the boy collapses. Someone throws a bucket of water on him. He flinches but doesn't move. The others return to their duties. No one helps him. That too is part of it. He must rise alone, or not rise at all. You walk past him without looking. You have to. If your eyes linger, someone might see softness, and softness is the start of your own flogging. Up in the stern, the captain leans on the rail, watching, not smiling, just watching. His coat is immaculate, his boots polished. He hasn't worked a rope in years, but his pistol is always loaded, and everyone knows it. Once, long ago, there was a mutiny. You weren't there, but the story's told often, loud enough for new recruits to hear. The ringleader was chained to the anchor and dropped at sea, still breathing. They say you could hear him screaming for a full minute before the ocean silenced him. After that, no one spoke of mutiny again. Some punishments aren't physical, some are colder. You've seen a man denied rations for a week. watched his eyes sink into his skull as he wasted away beside the rest of you. Each bite you took a punishment in itself. You've seen a man lashed not for theft, but for failing to laugh at a superior's joke. You've seen the line between sin and survival dissolve like salt in water. And yet, some men crave it. The order, the rules, the illusion of justice, even if it's cruel, because on land, poverty punishes without honesty. Here at least, the lash tells the truth. You return to your tasks. The ropes are no lighter, the sails still need trimming, but everything is quieter now. Punishment has soothed the ship like a spell. The crew falls back into rhythm, not because they're at peace, but because fear is an excellent conductor. Later, below deck, you see the boy again, still breathing, curled in his hammock, face turned to the wall. His back is a lattice of red and black, a warning written in flesh. Someone left a crust of bread beside him. It might have been you. You're not sure. He doesn't touch it. You think, not for the first time, about jumping ship, about finding land, about starting over. But then you remember the men who tried. Their stories too are told, and they all end the same way, with a bullet in the water, or a storm, or sharks. There is no escape from punishment, only postponement, only quiet obedience. The worst part isn't the pain, it's the knowing that next time it could be you, that all it takes is one rumor, one misplaced word, one night of bad sleep when your hands move too slowly. So you keep your head down, you move your feet, you nod at the right times, you laugh when others do, and you hope the lash forgets your name. And maybe, just maybe, if you suffer well enough, you so live long enough to forget how it felt. But tonight, as you lie in your hammock, the sound of the whip still echoes in your chest. You flinch in your dreams. You sleep with your back to the wall, just in case. And the ship keeps moving, and the sea keeps waiting, and the cat-o'-nine sleeps beside the bosun like a loyal dog. Rest now, for tomorrow has teeth, and they may not bite the same boy twice. You feel it before you see it. The wind shifts, not stronger, just different, thicker, like it's carrying something behind it, something angry, something with a mouth. The sky grows low, heavy with bruises, purple, yellow, a sickening green in the distance that doesn't belong to the sun. The sea, which only hours ago glittered with false friendliness, darkens like a face about to strike. The crew goes quiet, not from fear, not yet, but from the kind of silence that knows what comes next. They've seen storms before, so have you. That doesn't make it easier. There are no prayers. Pirates aren't a godly breed, not in the way priests would recognize, but there are rituals, superstitions that stick, a coin tied to a belt, a piece of rope around a wrist. No one whistles, not now. Whistling tempts the wind. The captain stands at the helm, squinting into the horizon like he can bargain with it. But the storm is not something that listens. The storm is a judge, and no bribe has ever worked on it. You are told to climb. Of course, you always are when it gets bad. The sails must be drawn up, trimmed, reefed. Quickly, tightly, precisely. One mistake and the whole mast could snap like a dry twig. One knot wrong and the canvas becomes a weapon. The ropes are wet before you even start. The deck already slick. Men hurry but not in panic. In grim rehearsal, movements they've done 100 times, hoping they don't have to do them 100 more. You climb. The wind slaps you. Not playful, not teasing, but punishing. It howls in your ears, makes your teeth ache. The rain hasn't started yet, but it will. You know the pattern. Your hands grip the ropes. You secure the sail. You tie it down with fingers numb and bleeding. You hold tight to the rigging as the first real gust hits, a violent shove from nowhere that almost takes your breath. And then it begins. The sea doesn't rise. It heaves, like something waking. Waves swell from beneath, not just high, but deep. They lift the ship like a toy, then drop it again with bone-rattling violence. You can hear the timbers strain. You can feel the nails in the hull, remembering they weren't always part of this thing. Lightning splits the sky. Thunder answers a moment later, loud enough to make your ribs vibrate. The rain hits next, sideways, needle-sharp, blinding. Below you, the deck is chaos. Men shouting, ropes snapping, barrels rolling like loose cannonballs. Someone screaming. Might be a warning, might be pain. You can't tell. You finish your task and start climbing down, every step a wager. One slip, and you'll fall. And if the fall doesn't kill you, the sea will. Back on the deck, your boots slam wood already awash with water. You help another man with the mainsail. His arm is bleeding. He doesn't notice. He's too busy living. You're ordered below not to rest. Never that, but to help secure the powder and patch leaks. The hold is a world unto itself in the storm, dark and groaning like a throat about to vomit. Barrels roll against walls. Water seeps in from cracks you can't find. You lash down crates. You check the gunpowder stores. You slam your shoulder against the cargo to hold it steady as the ship bucks. You taste fear now, for real. Not the usual daily seasoning, but the full, choking spoonful, the kind that silences thought. Above, the storm roars. It has no pattern, no mercy. It slams and retreats, then comes back stronger. It toys with the ship. It tests you. Every groan of wood is a countdown. You think about drowning, not in an abstract way. In the real way, in your mouth, in your lungs, in your ears. You imagine the cold, the silence, the weight of the sea pressing you inward, folding you like paper. And worse, you imagine surviving. Imagine being washed ashore, ribs broken, skin peeled, alone with nothing but the salt inside your brain, and the scream still caught in your chest. At least here you are not alone. The ship is still upright, for now. The captain shouts. The men respond. The crew moves like a single beast, wounded, angry, desperate. You haul a rope. You pull a sail. You secure a crate of spoiling oranges that smell like sunlit land and regret. A wave crashes over the port side. It hits hard enough to knock two men clean off their feet. One doesn't get up. He's dragged across the deck by the current and pinned against the railing. You reach him. You grab his arm. You pull. He's heavier than he looks. Or maybe you're weaker than you hoped. Another sailor joins. Then another. Together you drag him back. His leg is twisted. His eyes wide. He's alive but broken. You leave him where he won't slide. No time for more. The storm hasn't peaked yet. Another crack. This time from the mast. A chunk of sail tears free. It flaps violently, snapping like a monstrous flag. The noise is unbearable. You're told to climb again. Of course you are. You obey. You don't feel your hands anymore. You don't feel your fear either. Just cold. Just wind. Just the steady drumbeat of your heart refusing to stop. At the top you secure the line. One knot. Two. Your fingers bleed again. The salt burns. But you don't let go. The storm peaks. It howls, bellows, tears. The rain is relentless. The sea is trying to swallow you whole. You scream into the wind, not because it helps, but because there's nothing else left to do. Your voice disappears immediately, stolen by the gale, but it feels good, like fighting back. Then, slowly, the storm begins to ease. It doesn't stop. It never stops. But it lets you breathe again. The waves shrink, the wind calms, the rain becomes a drizzle, and the ship still floats. You hang your head, soaked, shaking, exhausted. Below, the deck is littered with debris, rope, vomit, blood. A sail hangs loose, flapping weakly like a wounded bird. You descend again. Each rung of the rope ladder feels like a farewell. Back on deck, you find the man with the broken leg, still alive, barely. The boy who was whipped the day before is tending to him, quietly, no orders, just decency. The captain surveys the damage, says nothing. He doesn't praise survival. He doesn't thank the crew. He just walks back to his quarters and slams the door. Some men collapse where they stand. Others begin repairs without being asked. You don't know what to do, so you just sit, cross-legged, soaked, heart pounding. You survived. Again. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like delay, a reprieve, a warning. The sea is not finished with you. It never is. And yet, you stir still here, still breathing salt, still soaked to the bone, still part of the ship, still clinging to the idea that maybe tomorrow the sea will be kind. It won't, but hope, like rot, is hard to scrape away. Rest now. You seldom dream of thunder. You'd so flinch in your sleep. But for a few hours at least, the storm has passed. Sleep, sailor. The sky is quiet. For now. Not everything taken on a pirate ship is stolen with a sword. You learn this quickly, long before your first raid, long before the first boarding plank thumps against an enemy hull, long before you taste blood that isn't yours. You learn it in the quiet moments, the ones between hunger and pain, between labor and sleep, that stealing is not just permitted here. It's sets required. The ship doesn't feed you enough. The rations never stretch. The water goes stale. And the rum, when it comes, is already promised to someone else. So you steal. Not out of malice. Not even out of desperation, but out of simple, salty arithmetic. Because if you don't take, you won't set last. Theft begins small. A scrap of bread left too long on a barrel, a sliver of dried apple pried from someone else's bowl when they turn to spit, a sip of water meant for the wounded. You tell yourself it's not real theft, not yet, just survival. But survival grows bold. Soon, it's tobacco, pinched from the quartermaster's sack while he sleeps, or flint, carefully traded away to another ship, and replaced with a stone that won't spark, or a sewing needle snuck from the bosun's chest, and hidden inside your boot for reasons you haven't even decided yet. You become clever. You start to watch hands, not faces, who keeps their pouch too loose, who forgets their locker key, who trusts too easily. These are the ones you steal from first, not because you hate them, but because they won't notice. At least, not right away. There are no locks here, no privacy. Your hammock is your castle, and even that sways in the wind and leaks from the ceiling. If you have something valuable, you sleep with it under your shirt, or you bury it in a crack in the hull and pray the rats don't get it first. But rats, like sailors, steal too. Sometimes you see the big thefts, when you board a merchant ship and rip the gold from its gut. That's honest, in its way. Loud, blunt, with cannon and blade. No one hides it, no one apologizes. The loot is shared, unevenly, sure, but shared. Those aren't the thefts that haunt you. The ones that stay with you are quieter. Like the time you found a fellow sailor hoarding dried figs in the lining of his coat. Figs you hadn't seen in weeks. He didn't offer, just sat beneath the stairs at night, chewing silently, eyes closed like he was praying. You told the cook. You got an extra slice of salt pork for it. The sailor got 10 lashes and a new nickname, Fig. He stopped speaking after that. Started trembling when people walked by. A few weeks later, during a storm, he fell overboard. Or jumped. No one said. You didn't eat the pork, but you didn't give it back either. You tell yourself now that you didn't steal anything that day. But you did. You stole his silence, his secret, his chance. And it fed you, just a little. There's a hierarchy of theft here. Certain things are fine, extra rations, a swig of rum, a glance at someone else's map. Others, like gold, weapons, or the captain's personal stores, those are sacred, untouchable. To steal from them is not just death, it's spectacle. You'll be hanged, or flayed, or tossed to the sea with your hands tied. So you learn where the line is, and you dance along it. You start to notice the best times to steal, when the ship rocks hardest, when the men are drunk, when the captain's attention is fixed on a new prize or a woman in port or a man he wants to kill. You steal time, time to rest, time to hide, time to stare at the sea and forget where you are. You steal glances at the stars when no one else is looking. You steal words from other men, jokes, songs, curses in foreign tongues, and make them your own. You steal parts of yourself back, slowly in the moments when no one is watching. But it doesn't set last. Because someone always watches. And eventually the things you've stolen are stolen from you in turn. Your flint vanishes one night. So does the bit of mirror you kept to see the back of your neck for lice. So does the stitched up pouch with the coin you found after the last raid. A coin you didn't spend, didn't show, didn't count, just held like a promise. Gone. No one confesses. You don't ask. You know how this works. You feel the anger rise, but it has nowhere to go. You can't hit the man who stole from you. You don't even know who he is. So you scrub the deck harder, tie your knots tighter, eat slower, and when the next opportunity presents itself, a loose pouch, a forgotten flask, you don't hesitate. You take. You tell yourself it saps balance. You tell yourself it's the only law the sea respects. And maybe it is. Even in port it doesn't stop. You steal soap from a bathhouse. You steal a knife from a drunken trader. You steal kisses from someone you don't plan to see again. Then you return to the ship and pretend nothing's changed. But the taste of taking never leaves. One night, a crewmate confesses, not to you, just out loud, says he once killed a man during a raid just to keep the loot for himself. Didn't need to. Could have taken it after, but it was easier that way. Cleaner. No one reacts. You wonder what you would do if it came to that. If a man had something you needed badly enough. If your life hinged on his death. You hope you said resist. You know you wouldn't stet. Theft, you've learned, is not always about objects. Sometimes, it sets about moments, dignity, mercy. You've stolen sleep, you've stolen silence, you've stolen a second helping of porridge, while the sick were still retching below deck. You didn't set mean to become a thief. But the ship made you one. Every man here is owned by something. Hunger, fear, pride, greed, and those things steal from him too, piece by piece, until there's almost nothing left. And so you take. Not because you are wicked. Not because you are cruel. But because in a world where everything is taken, sometimes the only thing left is to take back. You lie in your hammock now, a stolen biscuit in your hand. You chew slowly, quietly, carefully. The taste is sharp, salty, stale. You savor it like gold, and sleep comes easier tonight. Not because you are full, but because just for now, you are not empty. Rest now. Your hands may be light, but your soul is heavy. Let the sea carry the weight for a while. You've never seen the captain sleep. Not once. You've wondered whether he sleeps standing up or upside down like a bat or not at all, if maybe he's just carved from old driftwood and dried blood, animated by something crueler than breath. He lives above you both in rank and in distance. His cabin sits high at the stern, behind doors that don't open without invitation. The deck below his feet creaks different, like it fears him. He does not shout. Shouting is for lesser men, for bosuns and quartermasters. The captain speaks like a blade, low, slow, final. His words come with the silence of storms that haven't arrived yet. And when he does speak, the ship listens. Even the wind, sometimes. His laws are not written. Pirates don't keep scrolls, but everyone knows them. Rule 1, never steal from the captain. Rule 2, never question him where others can hear. Rule 3, when in doubt, bleed for him. Loudly if possible. No one voted for him. There was no ceremony. He became captain the same way most men here became orphans, through violence and poor timing. They say he slit the last captain's throat with a spoon. Not for mutiny, not even for gold, just because the man insulted his boots. He wears those boots still, and they shine like death. You've seen what happens when someone breaks his law. You saw a man whipped, then branded, a rusted coin pressed to his skin until it sizzled. He screamed for mercy. The captain looked at the horizon and lit his pipe. You saw a boy too young, too loud, tied to the bowsprit for 3 days, sunburned, frozen, starved. He came down different, quiet, eyes fogged, never spoke again. Some said it was mercy, others said it was a warning. And once, when a raid went bad, the captain drew lots to decide who would take the fall. The man who lost was gutted on the main deck. His blood made the floorboards slick. The rest of you watched. The law was satisfied. You've never broken a rule, not outright, but you've stepped close, close enough to feel the edge of it. Once you dropped a barrel of powder and it cracked. It didn't ignite, thank whatever God watches over cowards, but it spilled half its contents. The captain stared at the mess, then he stared at you. He didn't speak, didn't speak, didn't speak. You didn't sleep for 3 nights after that, just waited. Every creak of wood, every breath behind your shoulder, a promise that hadn't yet been delivered. But nothing came, which was worse in a way, because now you owe him. And debts on this ship are paid in blood or years. The captain isn't mad, that's important. Madness would be easier to manage. Madness you can anticipate. But he is something colder than that, something orderly. He keeps track of everything, every ration, every knot, every name. You once saw him correct a man who said there were 38 souls aboard. 37, the captain said without looking up. You forgot the cook's second boy. He fell last week. He remembers the dead better than the living. His cabin is a mystery. Some say it's lined with maps no one else can read, that he talks to them, that he consults the stars through a hole in the ceiling and writes things down in a book made of human skin. You don't believe it. But you don't not believe it either. The captain chooses where the ship goes, what it hunts, who it leaves behind. He listens to suggestions sometimes, but only to gauge who thinks they're clever. He wears 2 pistols and never reloads them where anyone can see. One is for mutineers, the other is for himself, or so he claims. If the sea wins, he once said, I shall go down by my own hand, not hers. No one asked him to explain. No one ever does. There are moments, rare, sunlit, wine-heavy moments, when he speaks like a man. He told a story once about a wife, or a child, or both. It was vague, half drowned in rum. You think it was supposed to be sad, but he laughed at the end, so no one knew what to do. You think he might have been trying to remind you he was still human. If so, it didn't work. He's not a tyrant, that's what makes it worse. Tyrants are predictable. The captain is fair. Fair in a way only the sea understands, equal parts mercy and horror. He once spared a man for cowardice, because not all men are meant to die with honor. Then he executed another for sneezing during a parley. He keeps the balance, keeps the fear calibrated, keeps the law alive in everyone sits bones. Yous have imagined killing him. Of course you have. Every man on this ship has. It's part of the life. You imagine his blood, his body overboard, the crew cheering, the wheel yours, but you never act. Because when the dream fades, you realize he's the only thing standing between you and real chaos. The only one the sea respects. If he dies, the ship turns on itself. It always does. The captain knows this. You've seen it in his eyes. That knowledge that he's both jailer and prisoner. It sets the one thing that makes him human. You wonder if he ever wanted this, if once long ago he just wanted to sail, or fish, or read, or love someone without needing to keep a knife under the pillow. If he even remembers what silence without threat sounds like. But you shall never ask, and he shall never say. The law is not about truth. It sets about motion. The keeping of order among creatures meant to drown. He walks the deck at dusk. Always at dusk. Hands behind his back, coat trailing, eyes scanning the horizon like it owes him something. Men part to let him pass. Not out of fear, but out of ritual. He nods sometimes. A tiny nod, a flick of respect, or calculation, or neither. You nod back. It sets the only language you share. And then he climbs to the helm. And the ship, as if by instinct, obeys. Rest now. His law still holds. For tonight, it always starts with the sound, not the scream that comes later. No, the sound is softer, wetter, like meat tearing, like cloth ripping underwater. You know it by now. You've heard it too many times. On deck, in the hold, in your dreams. That soft sound is where the blood begins. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. The ship absorbs it, drinks it, like it's hungry. The wood has dark stains now, older than you, older than the captain, older than memory. Blood lives here, between the planks, in the seams, beneath your boots. You're careful not to slip. The first time you saw a man die on deck, you were scrubbing the rail. The sun was high, the wind steady, everything felt alive, and then a knife. You never saw whose carved open a man's throat in the middle of a joke. He fell like rope, and his blood poured out fast and hot and impossible to believe. You didn't set move. You just watched it snake its way across the boards toward your bucket. It mixed with the soapy water, pink and swirling. You stared, then you kept scrubbing. No one said anything. No one told you to stop. You didn't even flinch when the body was rolled into a sailcloth and tossed overboard. That was your first lesson on this ship. Blood is no emergency. It is routine, like wind, like hunger, like rot. It comes from everywhere. A sliced finger on a rusted hook, a cannon recoil that breaks a nose, a boot to the ribs that leaves a man coughing red for days. Some of it is small, manageable, bandaged with rags and rum. Some of it is not. The worst comes after battle, not during. During, everything moves too fast to notice. Swords clash, guns roar, feet stomp, and the world narrows into instinct. It's afterward in the silence that you start to see it. The blood on your hands, on your shirt, on your boots, on your tongue sometimes if you were too close to the wrong wound. You don't remember how much of it is yours anymore. And that's the part that bothers you. Because it matters. It used to matter. The difference between what was taken from you and what you took. Now it sips all the same. Red dead lass, sticky warm. You've learned to clean it efficiently. The deck must be scrubbed after every fight. Even pirates don't like standing in gore. So you scrub, you rinse, you dump buckets, you scrape dried clots from the grooves with your fingernails. And it never really goes away. There sits a smell to it. Metallic. Sweet, somehow. Like copper and heat and rot. It stays in your nostrils, in your clothes, in your sleep. Sometimes you dream you're bleeding, and can't find the wound. Other times you dream the ship itself is bleeding. Rope soaked, sails dripping, the mast crying red tears. You've woken up with your hands clenched, sticky with sweat. You've checked your chest for holes that weren't there. But someone else is always bleeding. A jaw cracked open during a brawl. A tooth knocked loose. A rib that shifts wrong when a man breathes. You learn to listen for the cough that comes with blood. That's the bad one. That means something inside broke. There's no doctor here. Just the cook, the bosun, and a bottle of something that burns going in and coming out. You have stitched wounds. Badly. With sail thread and a needle black with rust. You've poured gunpowder into open flesh and lit it to stop the bleeding. You've held men down while others cut off their fingers. Sometimes they survive. Sometimes they don't. The sea doesn't care. When a man dies, his blood is wiped up. The rest of him goes overboard, wrapped in a sail, if he was liked. Nothing at all, if he wasn't set. The blood stays longer than the body. Sometimes if you stare at the deck long enough, you swear you can still see the outlines. The shape of a handprint. A spatter. A trail that ends at the rail. The ship remembers. Once in a storm, a man was thrown against the mast. His skull cracked open like overripe fruit. The blood came out in waves. The deck was slick for days, no matter how many buckets you poured. Some of it dripped through the cracks into the hold. You could hear it down there. Tapping. Like rain. But thicker. When the ship creaks at night, you sometimes wonder if it's the wind or if it's the blood trying to move again. You've bled too. A cut across the palm. A nail through your foot. A bruise on your ribs that turned black, then yellow, then something worse. You didn't cry. There's no point. No one listens. No one offers comfort. Only a nod, a flask, a curse. Then back to work. Because the ship does not stop. Not for pain. Not for blood. Not for you. You have noticed something else. You don't bleed as easily anymore. Your skin is tougher. Your callus is deeper. Your nerves quieter. It frightens you. A little. Because it means you're becoming part of the ship. Not a man. Just another piece of wood that groans and leaks and stays silent. You once believed your body belonged to you. Now you know better. It belongs to the sea. It belongs to the captain. It belongs to the ship and the blood it keeps. There is a red stain near the galley that no one ever cleans. It's been there for months. No one talks about it. But no one steps on it either. You think about that often. What lasts? What doesn't set? What gets remembered? You wonder when it's your turn, if the sea will remember your name, or just your color. You lie in your hammock now, arms aching, knuckles raw. There sips a smear of dried blood on your sleeve. Not yours. Not today, at least. You don't wipe it off. You close your eyes. The ship rocks. The wood sighs. And somewhere below, the old blood settles in its grooves. Sleep now. You have survived another day. And the deck still holds. For now, you will not die with a name. Not one that lasts. Not one that echoes in halls or is carved into stone, or whispered to children as warning or legend. You will die as most men here do, quickly, quietly, inconveniently, and your body will be thrown into the sea before it stiffens. That's how you die on a pirate ship. Not in battle, not with honor, not clutching some golden chalice looted from a cursed temple. That's the fantasy. The truth is this: you die when a mast rope snaps and breaks your spine. You die when you step wrong on the slick deck during a storm. You die from a cough that won't stop, or a tooth that swells until your jaw splits open. You die from spoiled meat, from someone else's knife, from a nail in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or you simply vanish, slipped overboard in the dark, the sea swallowing your scream before anyone bothers to look. There is no priest. There is no farewell. At best the captain might nod. At worst he doesn't even notice. Your death is a matter of timing, of mood, of whether or not the deck is too busy to stop. If you're lucky, you're wrapped in sailcloth. If not, you're rolled straight over the edge like ballast. One splash, then nothing. The ocean doesn't return what it takes. Not here. Once there was a man named Calder. He died after taking a cut to the leg that festered. He begged for rum, begged for fire, begged for death. When he finally slipped into silence, the crew waited half a day before tossing him over. They said it was too hot to move him. You remember the smell. You remember the flies. You don't remember what he looked like anymore. And that's the real death. The forgetting. No one writes anything down. There is no book of names, no list of the lost. The ship keeps no tally beyond what's useful. Men to man the guns, to haul the ropes, to bleed for the next prize. You will not be missed. Not because you were hated, but because missing someone takes energy. And on this ship, energy is spent on living. You try not to think about it, but you do. In your hammock, in the middle of night watches, when a gull lands on the rail and looks at you like it knows something you don't. You imagine your body falling through the dark, sinking past old wrecks, past bones picked clean, past things that never surface. You wonder how long you'd be aware. If your eyes would stay open, if something would bite you before you stopped thinking. Once you heard that dying at sea is a kind of baptism. But this sea doesn't cleanse. It devours. You saw a man drown once, not far from the ship. He fell during repairs and no one threw a rope fast enough. He kicked, flailed, shouted. The water took him slowly, like it enjoyed it. The crew watched until he was gone. Then someone made a joke. Then someone else laughed. Then the job resumed. You said nothing. Because what is there to say? That you scared? That you want more? That your bones ache in ways no hammock will fix? That sometimes you dream of your own corpse drifting just beneath the surface, bloated, mouth open, waiting for your spirit to catch up? There's no room for that here. So you learn to die before you die. Piece by piece. You give away your memories too dangerous. You stop missing the smell of firewood. You forget the names of trees. You bury the sound of your mother's voice beneath crashing waves and anchor chains. That way, when your body finally gives out, your soul will have less to carry. You hope it will rise, but you suspect it will sink. Some men make deals. One ties chicken bones around his wrist, says they protect him from the sea witch. Another carries a tooth pulled from a priest, swears it wards off drowning. You carry nothing. Not out of pride, but because you've already lost so much, you're afraid of giving the sea something else to want. The cook once said the sea marks men, that when it sets ready it calls them back, that the ones who belong to land will never drown, they'll always find a way to crawl ashore even if it kills them. But men like you were never meant to leave the water. So when you die, and you will, it won't be a tragedy. It will be a homecoming, a return. The sea will take your breath, your body, your name, and it will keep them, because that's what it does. You will become ballast, salt, memory, and then, not even that. The ship will sail on. The sails will be trimmed, the meals served. Your hammock will be emptied, washed in seawater and filled again. The deck will forget the sound of your boots. The men will forget your voice. Your absence will make no noise. And in the deep, a fish will pass through the space where your rib cage once curled, and the water will close, and the world will be unchanged. And yet, tonight, you are still here. Your blood still moves. Your lungs still rise. Your fingers still grip the rail like they believe in something. So sleep, sailor. You stir not dead yet. Let the sea wait a little longer. Rest now. For tomorrow the tide may call your name. And when it does, you will answer. You don't set dream of gold anymore. It stopped long ago, sometime between the third sleepless night and the fifth unwashed shirt, between the salt-rubbed wounds and the bruises that never learned how to fade. No, your dreams have changed. They are quieter now, stranger, hungrier. You dream of bread that doesn't crumble, of rooms that don't sway, of dry socks. You dream of land, not a place, just the idea of it. Dirt that doesn't move, doesn't lurch, doesn't threaten to swallow you whole with every step. You dream of trees. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they burn, sometimes you wake up reaching for a branch that isn't there. Once, you dreamed of wind that was warm and still, a wind that didn't scream. It was filled with bees. The good kind, the kind that hum and work and live, not sting and rot and hover around blood. You woke up crying and didn't know why. Another night, you dreamed you were a child again, small, barefoot, your feet pressed to floorboards that didn't pitch. Someone was singing. You think it might have been your mother, or maybe just a memory you built from nothing, stitched together out of need. You forget the words, but the tune stayed with you for 3 days. Then it vanished too. Dreams come slow now, slower than sleep. Some nights, you just lie there, eyes closed, body swaying with the ship, mind hollow, not awake, not asleep, just drifting, like driftwood, like something unclaimed. But when the dreams do come, they come heavy. You dream of falling overboard, always overboard, of sinking, of gasping, of trying to scream only to find your mouth full of seawater and silence. You've had that one so often, it's lost its power. Now the real nightmares are softer. You dream that the ship never ends, that you have always been here, that you were born on this deck, that you've always been swabbing, always been hauling, always been sleeping next to snoring men and whispering rats. You dream that the horizon is a lie, that land was something you imagined, that you never had a home, never had a name, only salt, only wood, only rope and rod and blood and sky. And sometimes, rarely, you dream of the men who have gone. Not in ways that comfort, not as ghosts or guardians, just reminders. You see their hands still working ropes, their backs bent over barrels, their faces blurred, but moving, always moving. In these dreams no one ever stops moving. That's how you know it's not real. Once you dreamed of color. That was the strangest one. The ship was red, not painted, just red somehow, as if it had bled into itself. The sky was gold, the sails were green, the ocean, not blue but white, like milk, like bone. You woke up with the taste of sugar on your tongue and couldn't stop crying. Not from sorrow, from confusion, from the simple terror of remembering beauty. You asked another sailor once, quiet-like, not serious, what he dreamed about. He said, nothing. Said the sea had taken his dreams, said it had no use for them. You nodded like you understood. But that night when he groaned in his sleep, you heard him whisper a name, a woman's maybe, or a ship, or a prayer. You didn't just ask again. Dreams are private here, too dangerous to speak aloud, like secrets, or wounds. The captain doesn't stream, you stir sure of it. He just closes his eyes and waits. For morning, for mutiny, for death. You envy him sometimes. Then other nights, you dream things you can't explain. You dream you're the ship, that your ribs are beams, your blood is brine, your spine the keel, you creak when you move, you ache when the sea slaps you, men crawl across your back, and you don't know whether to hate them or hold them. You dream you sear the sea, cold, endless, empty, and in that dream you look up and see yourself floating, small, ugly, shivering, and you wonder why you haven't swallowed him yet. That one wakes you in sweat. You don't just tell anyone. Some dreams make you quieter the next day. Some make you kinder. Some make you angry for no reason at all. But you hold them close. because they are the only place you get to leave. Only in dreams can you step off this deck. Only in dreams do your fingers touch grass. Do your lips taste honey? Do your lungs fill with air that hasn't passed through 1,000 mouths? Only in dreams are you whole. And even then, only barely. You fear the day they stop coming. You fear the silence, the blank dark behind your eyes. Because when that comes, when you sleep and see nothing, you'll know the sea has won, that you belong to her now, that your thoughts have unraveled like rope in a storm, and there's nothing left to tie you to yourself. So you guard your dreams, you protect them, even the nightmares, even the sinking ones, because they are yours. And very little is. Tonight as you lie in your hammock, the ship swaying gently like a tired mother, you feel the weight of sleep pressing on your chest. You close your eyes. And somewhere inside you, beneath the hunger, beneath the fear, beneath the salt and scars and silence, something small and flickering dares to light again. Maybe a tree, maybe a hand, maybe the idea of home. Sleep now. Dream carefully. You severed at least that much. The sea is not your friend. It never was. Even when it's calm, glassy, soft as a mirror, it's not mercy, it's a trick, a pause between punishments, a breath before the drowning begins again. You learned this the first time you leaned over the rail and looked too long. You felt it staring back. Not water, not salt, but something else. Something old. Something vast. Something hungry. They told you once the sea doesn't think, that it doesn't feel, that it just is. They were wrong. You've felt its moods. You've heard its voice in the hull at night. You've seen it change a man's face, slowly day by day until all that's left is brine and weariness. The sea hates you. Not with rage. Worse, with indifference. It doesn't care who you are, doesn't care what you've done, doesn't care if you're kind or cruel or lost or repentant. It will treat you the same way it treats everything, like something that can be swallowed. And it will swallow you, piece by piece. If not your body, then your mind. You've seen it happen. A man who stops talking, not from fear, not from sadness, just from salt, from the constant slap of wind, the endless stretch of water, the days that repeat like waves, identical, erasing themselves as they go. You saw a sailor tie a rope around his waist every night before bed, not to stay safe, but to remind himself he was still connected to something. One morning the rope was cut. No one asked why. The sea took him. Or maybe he gave himself to it. You've seen worse. You've heard worse. Men whispering to the waves, like they're speaking to a god, tossing their last coin overboard, scratching their secrets into the mast with broken fingernails. One man refused to step on land again after port, said the earth moved wrong, said it lied beneath his feet. He died at sea. They all do, eventually. So will you. But you already knew that. You try not to look at the horizon anymore. It promises things it never delivers. Islands that disappear, lights that vanish, land that always seems a day too far. You learn to look down instead, at the deck, at your hands, at your food. Safer that way. The sea cannot be watched, only endured. Sometimes during watch you find yourself speaking to it, quietly under your breath. You ask it to spare you, to spare the boy with the limp, to spare the barrel of fresh water, the final rope of the sail, the only dry match. But it doesn't sit listen. You know that. The sea is not a god. It is not a mother. It is not a grave. It is all of those, and none. It is the silence after a scream, the salt in every wound, the thing that keeps you alive just long enough to break you. You wonder, sometimes, what it remembers. All the ships it's eaten, all the bones it's buried, all the names it has erased. Does it catalog them? Does it care? You doubt it. If the sea has a memory, it's written in currents, always moving, never pausing, incapable of holding anything for long. That's why you must remember. Because the sea forgets everything it kills, including you. Once in a storm you thought you saw a face in the wave, not a real one but something shaped like it, mouth open, eyes wide, and for a moment you felt it looking at you, not through you, at you, as if to say, I know what you are, and I will have you soon. You haven't told anyone, they stead laugh. Or worse, agree. Even the captain keeps a small shrine in his quarters. You've seen it, a circle of bones, a strip of sailcloth, a vial of water sealed with wax. He doesn't pray, but he nods to it, like an agreement, an arrangement. Maybe that's what it takes to command the sea. A promise, a payment, a surrender. You're not ready to surrender. Not yet. You still feel the blood in your fingers, still taste wind when you breathe, still know your own name, even if you don't say it out loud anymore. But you feel the sea inside you now. In your dreams, in your teeth, in the way your skin peels in sheets, like bark, like something giving up. You try to laugh at it, mock it, spit into it when no one sits watching, but it always spits back harder. It breaks your rope, spoils your food, floods your hammock, takes, and still it leaves you alive. That's the worst part. The hate isn't personal, it's universal. No one is spared, not the kind, not the brave, not even the ones who belong to it. The ocean doesn't punish, it doesn't test, it simply dissolves. What you were, what you hoped, what you loved, and all that sips left is salt. Still, there are moments, tiny ones, when the water calms, when the sun burns gold on the waves, when the spray hits just right, and for one breath, just one, you feel free. But even that is a trick, because right beneath that calm is a storm. Always waiting, always watching, always remembering the part of you it hasn't claimed yet. So rest now, not because you're safe, but because you stir tired. Let the sea hate you. It means you stir still separate, still yourself, still something it hasn't yet devoured. Sleep, and do not listen to the waves tonight. There is no graveyard, only water, only sky, only a body that stops moving, and a crew that keeps working. When a man dies on land, there are choices, coffins, candles, priests with polished shoes and memorized words. But here, there is only one path. He goes overboard, wrapped in canvas, weighted with iron, swallowed by the thing that killed him. It doesn't matter how he died. Shot, starved, sick, forgotten. The ritual is the same. Simple, brutal, brief. You've seen it enough times now to know it by heart. It begins in silence, not out of respect, but out of fatigue. The crew gathers only because they told to. Some lean on the rail, some pick at their nails, some just squint into the sun like it's blinding them on purpose. The dead man lies still, wrapped tight in sailcloth, seams stitched with coarse rope, his face covered, his feet bound, a cannonball or two sewn into the fabric at his ankles, a guarantee that the sea will keep him. There is no priest, there are no prayers, only the captain, or sometimes the bosun, standing above the body muttering a few lines. Not blessings, just acknowledgments. This was Jack, they might say. He sailed, he worked, he bled, and then nothing. And then the push. Two men lift him by the shoulders and feet. He swings once like meat, then drops. Over the rail. The splash is always too loud. Like the sea wants everyone to know it's been fed again. And then it seps over. Men turn back to their tasks. The sails need trimming. The food needs boiling. The deck needs scrubbing. The world resumes without him. You remember your first burial. You didn't know the man. He had a crooked nose and a red scarf and used to hum through his teeth. One day he was coughing blood. The next he was gone. You helped carry him. You didn't mean to. You were just standing close and someone shoved a rope into your hands and nodded. You obeyed. You didn't cry. You didn't feel much at all except a tightness behind your eyes that didn't turn into anything. That night, you sat on the stairs near the hold, listening to the sea lap against the hull, wondering how long it would take for the ocean to strip him bare. You pictured fish chewing the threads of the sailcloth, pictured his eyes drifting open in the dark. You didn't sleep well that night. You still don't that. Sometimes, In dreams, the dead come back. Not angry. Just wet. Quiet. Dripping. Asking if you remember their names. You never do. That's the part that hurts. Because maybe, someday soon it will be you. And they self-forget you just as quickly. They wrap you. Tie you. Weight you. And then, splash. No marker. No cross. No story. Just water. You once asked a crewmate why we do it that way. Why we don't burn the dead or bury them on land when we have the chance. He shrugged. They belong to the sea now, he said. Same as us. It made sense at the time, but it never sat right. You don't want to belong to the sea. You want to belong to something that remembers. You have seen men beg not to be thrown over, plead to be left on land, in a ditch, in a tree, anywhere but the water. One even asked to be nailed to the mast after death, so at least I'll keep sailing. The captain declined, quietly, and the sea got him anyway. It always does. Some try to make peace with it. They tie charms to their hammocks. They whisper to the waves. They pretend each splash is a prayer. You don't set. You just watch. You help lift the body. You steady the rope. You nod when you are supposed to. But inside you stir screaming. Not out loud. Never out loud. That would make it real. So you scream with your stomach. With your fists. With your silence. The most recent burial was a boy. No one knew his name. He came aboard in port, young and scrawny and eager to please. He swabbed the deck well. He sang off key. He died in the night. No one noticed until morning. No one claimed him. Not even the captain spoke his name. He was wrapped. Waited. Dropped. And you didn't even watch this time. You just kept tightening the sail. Hands trembling. Heart doing strange things in your chest. You think about him sometimes. Or try to. But the face fades. The voice fades. Everything fades. That's the true burial at sea. Not the splash. But the forgetting. There is no final word. No headstone. No soft dirt to press your hand against in the years to come. Only absence. Only space. Only a hammock that no longer sways. You try to imagine what your own burial will look like. Who will carry you? Who will stand? Who will pretend to care? Will anyone remember the scar on your hand? The way you knotted rope faster than anyone else? The song you used to hum when the wind was low? Probably not. And maybe that's mercy. Maybe forgetting is the only peace this world offers. You lie in your hammock tonight, staring at the beams above. There's a stain there. Dark. Old round. You don't know whose blood it is, but you speak to it anyway. Softly. Just in case. Sleep now. If not for yourself, then for the boy. For the man with the red scarf. For the ones who fell silently, far from anything that could hold their name. Let the sea forget. But not you. Not yet. There are places your feet will never touch. You know this now. It no longer a possibility. It a certainty. You will never walk on snow. Not the kind that falls in silence, powder soft, clinging to rooftops and eyelashes. You'll never feel the crunch of it beneath your boots. Never watch it melt on your tongue like a secret you were allowed to keep. You shall never see a mountain. Not up close. Not in shadow. Not with your hands resting on stone that doesn't sway. You'll never taste a pear so ripe it drips down your wrist. Never pick a plum from a crooked tree in a stranger's garden. Never bite into bread still warm from the oven, made for someone who knew your name. You shall never lie beside someone who loves you. Not with a roof above you. Not with time to spare. Not with silence that doesn't threaten. You shall never see your own face age in a mirror. Not gradually. Not kindly. The sea doesn't offer reflection, only distortion. And even if it did, there are no mirrors here. Only puddles. Only guesses. You'll never walk through a market full of people and stop just to listen. To laughter. To argument. To the way life wraps itself around things that don't matter and makes them feel important anyway. You shall never see your mother again. If you had one. You think you did. You can still remember her hands. Rough maybe, or soft. You're not sure anymore. You remember the way she held a spoon, or maybe a book, or maybe just you. That memory is slipping. So many of them are. You've forgotten the color of your first shirt. The sound of your own laugh when you meant it. The smell of grass after rain. You'll never see your hometown again. Even if you returned, it wouldn't be there. Because places change. And so do people. And you? You've changed into something the land wouldn't recognize. Something the shore would reject. You don't speak the same way anymore. You flinch at stillness. You count hours in ropes pulled and sails trimmed and meals endured, not in clocks or bells. You are a creature of motion now. Of muscle. Of water. Of survival. There are festivals you shall never attend. Candles you shall never light. Weddings you shall never crash. Babies you shall never hold. Rooms you shall never paint. Dogs you shall never feed from your hand. You will never be someone said's father. Or someone's son, not anymore. You will never be asked, where have you been? And get to answer honestly. You'll never rest beneath a tree and look up through the leaves and think, yes, this is enough. Because out here nothing is ever enough. The sea doesn't give closure. It doesn't offer beauty without hunger. Doesn't offer silence without threat. Doesn't offer rest, only pause. And so you carry the weight of every road not walked. Every door not opened. Every fire you never sat beside. They collect inside you, like coins at the bottom of a chest. Heavy, cold, forgotten by everyone but you. Sometimes when you close your eyes you can almost see them. A chair by the fire, a friend this shoulder, a bed that doesn't swing. You try to reach for them, but your hand stays still, because it knows better. The ship has made you forget how to reach. There are things you will never see, because the sea keeps you, not as prisoner, not as punishment, but because once you give it your days, it takes your futures too. All of them. One wave at a time. You lie in your hammock now, staring at the dark above. The boards creak. A rat scuttles. Someone coughs, not badly, just the usual. You listen, and for a moment it suts all you have. Not the mountain, not the fire, not the tree, just this breath, this night, this place. It isn't set much, but it sets still yours, and that for now will have to be enough. Sleep now. The stars are behind clouds, and the sea is still moving. But tonight, you don't have to. You will leave nothing behind. No letters, no footprints, no last words whispered into a loved one and his ear. No grave, no heirloom, no story worth repeating, not because you were unloved, but because out here the world forgets fast. Faster than blood dries, faster than salt rusts steel, faster than your name fades from the captain's lips. And you understand this now, not as tragedy but as truth. There is no inheritance on a pirate ship, only leftovers, maybe a rusted knife you tucked beneath your hammock, dull from overuse, maybe a bit of cloth tied to your wrist, once white, now gray with time, maybe a bent spoon you favored, half patched with twine, because it fit your hand right. That's it. The rest will be claimed. Quickly, quietly, without thanks. Your shirt if it so's not too stained. Your boots if they still hold shape. The tobacco pouch you never let anyone borrow. They pass through other hands, get stained with someone else's sweat, fall overboard during a storm, and no one will remember they were yours. You once leave behind a diary. You never wrote one. What would you have written anyway? Rope burn on my right palm today. Biscuit was full of weevils. Thought about home but couldn't yet remember the color of the door. You didn't have the ink, or the time, or the reason. You won't leave behind a child to carry your face. No woman to clutch her belly and curse your name with love. No one who flinches when they see your smile in a crowd. Your face was always meant to vanish. You once leave behind a song. There are songs sung here. Yes, loud ones, foul ones, bitter and drunk with wind, but none of them are yours. And if you ever did hum a tune, it's long since been swallowed by the sea's roar. There will be no one who speaks your name with reverence. No friend who raises a glass on the day of your birth. No stone etched with the year you vanished. But even so, you did leave something behind. It's seeds not visible. It one that be passed down or picked up. But it sets there. In the way someone ties their knot, the way you did. In the rhythm of a footfall that echoes yours. In the memory of a moment when a sailor laughed, not knowing he was repeating your joke. You leave behind breath. Burned fuel. Muscle turned into movement. You helped the ship move. You helped this day happen. You hoisted the sails. Swabbed the deck. Took your share of the lash and the cold and the silence. You carried the weight so someone else didn't have to, at least not for that moment. You were part of something. Not holy. Not noble. Not even fair. But real. And that matters. You were here. In this place. At this time. That matters more than you think. Somewhere down the line when someone else stares out over the water, wind in their face, hunger in their gut, calluses blooming like blisters, they'll be feeling what you felt. And though they one not know your name, they shall know you. In the ache. In the sway. In the 1,000-yard stare that belongs only to those who've lived at the mercy of the tide. You don't instead leave behind a legacy. You leave behind a weight. A rhythm. A pattern pressed into the fabric of those who come next. That sep's enough. It has to be. So you lie in your hammock, the ship creaking gently beneath your bones, and you let go of all the things you never owned. The farm you never built. The book you never wrote. The warm fire you never tended. Let them go. They were never yours. Not really. But this moment, this breath, this heartbeat in the dark, this at least is yours. And when it ends, you won't set know what you left behind. But something will, even if it sums only the sea. Sleep now. Let go. The tide has turned, and the ship sails on. No one calls your name. There is no sound. Not anymore. Not really. Only the wood breathing beneath you. Only the soft whisper of rope swaying in rhythm. Only the hush of waves brushing against the hull like the hand of something that has waited a long time. You are no longer hungry. No longer cold. No longer reaching for anything. You are still. And that in itself feels impossible. The ship continues without you. Men shout. Boots clatter. A sail snaps in the wind. But none of it touches you now. You are below the noise. Below the planks. Below the worry. There is no pain. No memory. No fear of what the tide might bring. You have shed all of it. The rope burns. The spoiled food. The cruel weather. The silence after laughter. The face you once called home but can no longer picture. All of it drifts away from you like foam on the current. You don't fight to hold on. You don't stead need to. There is nothing more to prove. No story left to finish. You were here. You breathed. You worked. You watched the sea stare back. And you did not look away. That is enough. The ocean welcomes you now. Not with arms. Not with warmth. But with stillness. It no longer hates you. It no longer needs to. Because now you are part of it. Not floating. Not sinking. Not resisting. Just returned. No one remembers your name. But that sep's okay. There are no wolves at the door. No cold in your bones. No blood in your mouth. No lie left to carry. You have survived your last storm. Swung your last rope. Heard your last scream. And now? There is nothing. And in that nothing, there is peace. Sleep now. Yous have earned it. And the sea is quiet.